Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back with another video from Annie News. We've got cut content from DanMachi Season 5, covering episodes 1 and 2. This season's strange, just going to give a little bit of an input why things so far, like, I'm enjoying it, it's fun, but I feel like it's being deceptively fun for something that's all of a sudden going to kick in, and I am all for that. The looking after everybody just wants him. Everybody just like let's get into it.
Season 5 kicks off with quite the intriguing first episode, then follows it up with some Konosuba level comedy. That shouldn't take away from the mystery of what's going on though, since Seir's connection to the Freya Familia is everything right now.
Yeah, that is it. Something's gonna and it's gonna be like, oh my god.
It's the catalyst towards what looks to be the best season of DanMachi yet.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, I won't be able to do weekly cut content until ReZero is done, but until then I should be able to do one every 2 episodes.
Okay, cool.
So let's take a look at what those first 2 episodes left out and explore Seir's wishes along with Belle's rigorous training.
The training was brilliant. I loved it.
A grueling process that actually had him picking up girls in a dungeon for once.
They all really, really liked it as well.
Let's get started. Episodes 1 and 2, Seir, covering various interludes from Volume 15 of the light novel, then Chapters 1 to 3 from Volume 16 of the light novel.
Wow, I don't think he's ever had to say it's from various stuff. It's always just like, okay.
The first half of Episode 1 ties off all the loose ends of Season 4, essentially showing the updated status of the Hestia Familia, along with Ryu's conflicted feelings towards Belle. Where we finally get into the true beginning of the new arc is with Seir's monologue describing her own conflicted emotions. It's an impactful scene giving lots of clues towards who she really is. She basically described how the way her life was now was the best life she could imagine, but at the same time it was nearing its end. It was the inevitable fate of those who lived in the mortal realm. So, with time constantly marching on no matter what, the day Seir always feared drew closer. We don't know what day that was, but as soon as Seir realized how close it was, that's when she knew that she couldn't let things stay the same way that they always were. She knew she had to act on the feelings that she'd constantly been suppressing. It was as she came to that realization that she began to ask herself some very interesting questions. The first was, when did the means of reaching her goal become her actual goal? The second, when did the lie within her begin to hurt her? Then the third, the timeless question of what does she truly wish for? The first implies that her relationship with Belle may not be as naturally formed as we might think it is, while the second makes you wonder what lie could she possibly be referring to. Whatever the answer to those questions may be, the key to all of them is her connection to Freya. It's one of the more major plot points kept in the background until now.
Right.
So, with that setting the stage.
Yeah, especially with the outro, just having her, Freya, just walking along and dressing up. Definitely gonna have a lot to do with it.
The next is the event that's currently happening in Arario. You see, the Goddess Festival happens because Elegia does. With Elegia being this week-long tribute to the fallen heroes and adventurers, it was only natural to brighten things up with a hopeful festival after. The city would remain somber for the duration of the week, then the Goddess Festival would bring things back to normal with a grand celebration. This is important for a cutscene that happened earlier, since it was during Elegia that Belle had come across Eyes. The two were visiting the graveyard for adventurers, and to Belle's surprise, Eyes was leaving flowers at a gravestone.
Oh.
It was the resting place of the legendary hero Albert, one of the numerous heroes Belle read about in Dungeon Arario, which was a chronicle of the city's legends and its many great heroes.
That explains why he knows so much about the... Yeah, cool.
It was essentially Belle's Bible back when he was younger. Albert was the final story of said book, and he alone became one of the greatest figures to ever stand in the mortal realm. His adventures were so incredibly epic that fairy tales too recounted their greatness. So, given Belle's interest in Albert back when he was younger, he was very much intrigued by Eyes' presence here, particularly by the flowers that she was leaving for Albert. That's when Belle would notice the names on the gravestone too, which was his last name Waldstein, along with his epithet of the Mercenary King.
Okay.
Now, he wasn't actually a mercenary in the sense that we know it, since mercenary here was just the name for adventurers back in the day. That being the case, it would be more accurate to call Albert the King of Adventurers. It was a title that only further strengthened the connection between him and Eyes. Given how insanely powerful both were known to be, It was only natural the strongest of ancient times be related to the strongest of the current generation. So, to Bell this was more than just a coincidence. So much so that he would actually investigate this connection more. So, out of curiosity to see if Waldstein was mentioned anywhere else, Bell would check his current copy of Dungeonario but only find Albert's first name mentioned. This made him think back to when he'd heard the name before, which, as it turns out, was in the unofficial copy that his grandfather gave him.
Oh.
It was the version he read back when he was younger, and that was actually handwritten by Bell's grandfather himself.
Ooh. Oh, that's so interesting. Intrigue.
This had always made Bell question its authenticity, but given that his version had verifiable details that the official version did not, well, Bell wasn't so sure that he should be doubting it anymore. Either way, there was a good chance that Eyes was a descendant of Albert. Now, though their last names and power seemed more than just coincidence, something about all of this just felt off. Eyes' expressions didn't seem like that of someone visiting a distant adventurer, so there was quite a bit of confusion regarding who Albert actually was. Even more so when you consider what it was Albert did in his final act. This isn't something that Bell goes on to explain, but it is worth keeping in the back of your head. Fast forward now to Horn's delivery, and her just being here was very much a big deal.
Right.
As Freya's personal attendant, it was very rare that she ever leave Babel or the residence. So for her to be out here was incredibly special. Now, if you're wondering why she has no alias, well, that's simply because Freya didn't want to give her one. She straight up said that Horn would never become anyone. Yes, that is very harsh, but it does make sense given what these titles are supposed to represent. I mean, if a title is given to praise an adventurer's greatest feat, then what need does someone who only serves have for one? That's not to say that she isn't powerful though, since despite her lack of an alias, she is still an upper-rank adventurer.
Okay, fair, so don't mess. Do not mess.
In fact, she's actually the only upper-rank adventurer without a second name, a trait that makes her quite the unique existence of sorts. The meeting after was just speculation on Seir and her connection to Freya, but the fact Bell had only been here for 6 months was made abundantly clear. That's right, from the moment Bell arrived in Aurario up until now, a grand total of only 6 months have passed. It's actually pretty crazy to think about just how much has happened. In any case, the whole love letter spurred all sorts of thoughts from everyone else, leading to some pretty comedic...
I should ask Phaestus. No, it's too soon to aim for the ultimate summit this time. This isn't the time to be thinking about love. Is everybody in love with Belle? I mean, I know I don't, but ooh.
Lines from the rest of the Familia. Seir's locker room talk had an additional scene with Ryu, basically involving her and Chloe. While everyone else was invested in Seir's love life, Chloe alone noticed just how sad Ryu was. She then went to ask if Ryu was okay with it, to which Ryu would ramble about how Belle and Seir were good for each other. It was the kind of uncertain statement that you would expect from her. This obviously had zero truth to it though, since the mere fact that Ryu referred to Belle as, well, Belle, was indication enough to show that things had changed between them.
First name basis, oh my god, what am I doing? Wah, punch! Who goes there?
Moving on to Seir's agreement with Freya, quite a few more clues were given towards their potential connection. First, her confession included the words, "I've come to love that boy because of your heart." Then after that, Seir revealed how she was always Freya's tool and a fake. They were powerful words that came with some pretty heavy implications. I won't speculate on what they are now, but if you're trying to piece together who Seir is before it's finally revealed to us, all these clues are sure to be helpful. In any case, despite Seir being well aware of what she is, this request of hers produced a reaction very few ever get to see on Freya.
But like, for her as well to be like, look, the deal is, if he finds out who you are, you never see him again as well. It's like, oh my god, it's got to be a big deal. It got to be a big deal.
She was genuinely surprised by what Seir had said to her and perhaps even moved by her arrogant request. Either way, Freya acknowledged Seir's resolve to follow through on her feelings and accepted her request to have one chance only. It may have been incredibly shameless, but Seir wasn't going to allow the only chance she had disappear like that. It was the first step towards a betrayal that even Freya wasn't aware of. A last-ditch effort to pursue a dream Seir knew she didn't deserve. This brings us now to the fight with Hedin, which you'd be surprised to know was anime exclusive.
Oh, that's cool. Alright.
I guess we needed a bit of action, so that's exactly what we got with this level 5 beatdown.
Alright, fair. That's cool. They added something, because it would just be all this comedy, funny, because DanMachi, when the action gets good, it gets good. And that was a really cool fight. I liked it.
Now, Episode 2 was very faithful with regards to mostly everything, but Bell's training was even more intense than what we saw ourselves. As Bell would describe it himself, it was the most grueling 5 days.
Those eyes, man. Those eyes. God damn.
Days he's ever experienced. It was before all that, though, that it was during their interview that Hedin would first ask a very thought-provoking question. He wanted to know if Bell did know how Seer was connected to the Freya Familia. Would it really change anything about their relationship? Bell thought long and hard on if it would, and in the end decided that it wouldn't. Because of all she'd given him and how she'd helped him, Bell knew that absolutely nothing would affect his relationship with her. Now, it was after 2 days of remodeling that Bell would go on to do 3 more days of infield practice. What I mean is that every waking moment, both day and night, would be spent here in the dungeon hunting both monsters and women. It was an intense training regiment designed to teach everything there is to know about dates. So, with a maxim that women cost money and dates incur expenses, spending money became the most efficient way to demonstrate sincerity. To Hedin, a date that cost nothing was doomed from the beginning. That being the case, Bell was required to hunt monsters in order to amass funds for his date. It was while he did that he would also target any female adventurers that he could. In fact, there were even times when Hedin would intentionally create a pass parade, then send them towards unsuspecting women just so Bell could gallantly save them.
That's a bit dangerous. Oh my god, that's next level. Jesus Christ.
This was in order to
go save them, then seduce them.
Trigger the suspension bridge.
But not too far. Just enough to make them blush. Then I shall stoop in and take you away.
Effect, which would in turn realistically emulate scenarios of women falling in love with him. It had genuinely helped him to become more experienced with them, all while training him to be ready for every possible sort of reaction. Every woman had different levels of sensitivity requiring varying degrees of service and devotion, so this was what Bell was learning over and over again. He would learn how best to react to all of them, then use those lessons to please Seer the best he could. If he ever disappointed a woman while training, then Hedin would shock him with an ultra-short cast lightning bolt. So, all in all, this was truly the most difficult 5 days that Bell had ever experienced.
So funny.
He wasn't allowed to sleep, rest, or even feel sick, since when I say that every waking moment was spent picking up girls in a dungeon, I really mean that that's what happened.
What a life.
Now, the last thing before getting to the Goddess Festival was Ryu's lifeless behavior during the 5 days that Bell was training. The closer the Goddess Festival drew, the more defeated Ryu became. She was stuck at a crossroads since she didn't know what she wanted more. She didn't want to lose Seer's smile, but at the same time she didn't want to lose Bell's presence in her life either. It was a conflict of emotion that made her feel like she'd betrayed her friend. By now she'd fully accepted that she'd fallen for Bell, but it was those very emotions that were driving her crazy. Before, she had no idea how to process them, but now she'd finally accepted them for what they were. It was a particularly terrible time to do so given the circumstances, one that made her unsure as how to face Seer and Bell. So, that's everything before the actual date, which is where I'll pick up from starting next episode.
Cool.
I hope you enjoyed learning more about DanMachi, and if you didn't want to see more, then consider leaving a like and subscribing. I'll eventually do these every week once ReZero is finished. Until then, though, ciao.
Makes sense to prioritize ReZero. I think it gets more views on it, and it's a more popular anime than DanMachi. Plus, ReZero is more accessible than DanMachi, with ReZero being on Crunchyroll and all. But yeah, very cool to see. I'm actually enjoying it. Episode 3 was good. I won't talk about episode 3 yet, because, like I said, we'll wait until the content, and he said he's going to do every 2, so he'll be covering 3 and 4, and so that's something to look forward to. And the ReZero cut contents have been good as well, and I do believe I have to watch this week's episode of ReZero. I am enjoying ReZero as well. Really, really cool. But yeah, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video and want to be able to watch patron-only reactions, such as the original Dragon Ball series. Links in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all they ask to help support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you for that. Thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know that I should watch and discuss some future videos. I'll see you guys next time.